What is up, my brothers and sisters? Today I'm talking about a film that has shaped my love for filmmaking probably more than any other movie. I'm talking about the 1972 Sam Peckinpah masterpiece, The Getaway, starring Steve McQueen and Ali MacGraw. Now, this film is an absolute masterpiece and a staple of the Hollywood New Wave. The Hollywood New Wave was a movement in the 70s with filmmaking that changed the game. And basically this movement gave directors complete artistic control over their films. So we saw more edgy and experimental cinematography, more touchy subject matter, more violence on screen, and that's really where Sam Peckinpah pioneered filmmaking at his most. I mean, Sam Peckinpah, I'm going to do a biography or at least a essay on Sam Peckinpah at some point. Actually, I did a presentation for him for one of my college public speaking courses, and he is a genius. He is an absolute genius and a pioneer when it comes to on-screen violence in films, as well as cinematography and filmmaking edits. So like when it comes to like camera, audio, just the cinematography, very ahead of his time and more so just influential for 70s filmmakers. He's very underrated, and I would say people don't talk about him for a reason. He's very controversial. The subject matter he chooses to discuss in his films, he takes on heavy subjects, and he doesn't do it in the most politically correct way. He's not super right-wing or super left-wing. He's just honest to his own opinions, and he takes on very heavy material, very heavy, in a lot of his movies. And more than that, more so, a lot of his controversy, or I wouldn't say more so, but I would say alongside, he's very well known for his violence on screen. So Bonnie and Clyde was the first movie to use the squib, which the squib is a technique that is not used as much nowadays, but in the 70s, 80s, and 90s it was used a lot. Basically, when someone gets shot or stabbed or something, especially shot, like it kind of like is like a little capsule that explodes and it looks like blood, like kind of just exploding from you. So if you were to get shot, it kind of just like oozes out and it kind of explodes toward the camera. That technique, he revolutionized it as a technique. So obviously a few years before he started using it, when Bonnie and Clyde was released in 67, that's when it first came out. But he pioneered a new technique on how to use it and brought it to a new level. And he really brought violence in film as not just in the art of filmmaking, but utilize it as a form of art. And as a World War II veteran himself, he knew that Hollywood was kind of glamorizing violence. So he would do one of two techniques in his films throughout his filmography. First off, he would just show the brutality and the evilness of violence by portraying it exactly in a way more realistic way. So way more bloody, way more gory. But in another sense, he also overdid it in an artistic way to make it so that you're enjoying it and then you're subconsciously noticing that. So he was a very edgy filmmaker, controversial filmmaker, but this film is not his most famous. His most famous is his magnum opus, of course, The Wild Bunch, which is in my opinion, the greatest Western of all time, or I should say the best. Maybe not the greatest, but the best Western of all time. This was The Getaway, released in 1972, starring Steve McQueen. Sam Peckinpah and Steve McQueen also released another movie together the same year, Junior Bonner, which is a beautiful Western. Beautifully edited and very cool movie. Highly recommend. But this film right here, if you're going to watch Hollywood New Wave films, films from the 70s, which I'm sure you've seen some of them, there's a lot of very popular ones, a lot of them that I talk on this channel. But if you're if you want to see the editing styles that Sam Peckinpah really pioneered and really changed the game of filmmaking by really creating and putting together in a way that had never done before, watch this movie. The first, I would say, 5 minutes of the movie is an intro. It is an opening introduction. And it is a true introduction to a film. In my opinion, the best opening of any film. It's a 5-minute long scene of Steve McQueen in prison. And he wants to get out on parole. He's a bank robber. And the film is so beautiful. So it starts out with like 4 or 5 different events happening while you're kind of understanding what is going on, which is he's in prison and he wants to get on parole, and he gets rejected, of course. And that's when the movie takes off. But as you're finding out what the storyline of the movie, it's showing about like 5 or 6 different events happening. And each one starts to overlayer audio onto the movie, onto the screen. And visually, it keeps cutting between each scene on the different events happening. And then the audio starts layering over each other and layering over each other. And as you're understanding the story and you're understanding the tense little courtroom scene that they have, and his own anxiety in his head of being in prison and missing his wife, Ali McGraw's character, it starts to overlaying the audio slowly, and then you start getting jump cuts into the other scenes, and the jump cuts and the jump cuts, and the audio gets louder, and the jump cuts and the jump cuts and the jump cuts and the jump cuts, and the climactic scene where he's been working on this like model ship, and he just smashes it in that one climax, and it is expertly done. It is one of the best top 3 moments of the movie, and it is the greatest introduction to any film I've ever seen. So watch it. Basically, this is a bank robbery film. I'm not going to get into extreme plot heavy detail. I'm sure there's other videos for that, and just watch the movie. It's a beautifully shot film, very gritty. This is the quintessential gritty 70s feel to a movie. Now, he has other movies that are just like that as well. Several of his films. The Wild Bunch was in the late 60s. Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia. A lot of other films that are very gritty. Straw Dogs, which is probably his top controversial film, I would say. But this film has great editing. Great 70s style jump cut editing. And so it's basically a dog chasing cat chasing mouse style story, to where him and Steve McQueen and Ali McGraw's characters have the money and they're on the run. And so the guy, he's being chased by another person he was working along with to rob the bank with. So he's being chased by him, and then they're all being chased by the people that hired them. So it's a very interesting film. I mean, it's a fun movie. There's a lot of really fun parts in it. Where it's along, it has a good time. See, that's the thing. It doesn't take itself extremely seriously, like in every single instance. But filmmaking wise, it is a great 70s film. Amazing. And it's a long movie. It's like, I think it's 2.5 hours long, maybe even a little longer than that. And you can definitely feel it. The pacing of the film during the middle section, during some parts, through the first watch, it's going to feel a little bit long. And that's how a lot of Sam Peckinpah films are. The first part of the film, the first section of Peckinpah films are usually really violent, very intense, exciting. Then there's like the middle 2/3, and it's pretty slow. And that's a lot of his films. But another key scene to this film that I want to point out is the scene where they're on the run, Ali McGraw and Steve McQueen, and he goes into this small town in Texas, and he goes and he robs the gun store, and he steals a 12 gauge shotgun. And the way that he utilizes the shotgun, basically he gets the cops to go on the ground, the two sheriff's deputies that confront him, and he blows that police car, sheriff's vehicle, up to pieces. I mean, he's just cocking it, and the way he shoves the rounds into the barrel, and the way he cocks it, and it's beautifully shot. I mean, the car's just flying apart, and he just looks like a freaking badass. Steve McQueen. I mean, this is one of Steve McQueen's best characters, for sure. And it's hard to pick a Steve McQueen character, because there's a reason why Steve McQueen's my favorite. Because he's in a lot of great movies, and he's freaking awesome in all of them. But this is one of his best, and this scene is probably one of the top, I would say top 2, probably Steve McQueen scenes of all time. He's just cocking it back and forth, shooting the cop car up, reloading it, and he has this suit and tie on, and it's in slow motion. It starts to do jump cuts, and then the car starts to blow up. Super awesome. And that scene right there made the 12 gauge pump action my favorite gun of all time. And I know that's stupid because, I didn't shoot it before I watched the film, but it made me get into it. And today it's still my favorite gun. Super fun to shoot. And just in general, I mean, I think it might have been a Remington that he was using, but whatever brand of gun that was that he was using, they need to utilize that as a commercial. They need to use that as a commercial, because that's the best advertisement that they could ever do. I mean, that scene is awesome. And then the end of the film. The end of the film is great. The shootout is amazing. And again, I mean, I think the end of this film is probably the second best example of Peckinpah's violence on screen. Obviously, the number one is going to be the 2 scenes in The Wild Bunch. I mean, obviously, extremely violent, but the brutality and the artistic utilization of art in the film through the violence. I mean, it's artistic and violent at the same time. When he's dueling out with these guys, I mean, the blood's just squirting everywhere. The squibs are really, he utilizes these squibs to their full potential, and I guarantee you, I mean, this is not his most violent film, and yet at the same time, some people, I mean, obviously not modern day viewers that watch like The Terrifier, they're not going to turn the movie off, but the violence in Peckinpah films, it's slow motion a lot of the time, and it's jump cut, and they use jump cuts a lot of the time to convey. It brings you into it. It brings you into the sense of the violence, and it shows it in an ugly way. And I say artistic because the blood's flying in slow motion and whatnot. And then, he's shooting the doors. He's going through the doorways with a shotgun. McQueen looking for the guys that he's dueling out with, and the door starts slow motion, shattering apart, wood chips flying everywhere. It's a form of art. And Peckinpah utilizes film as a form of art, but at the same time, it's violent, and it makes you at the same time recognizes how violence really is not a good thing, not a positive thing. I mean, obviously sometimes it's necessary, but a lot of films, especially, I mean, I would say modern films, they glorify it. And then I would also say that the old films, they don't show it to what it is, so people don't really know what violence is that are watching the films. It kind of takes it for granted. It makes it so that it's not something that harms people. You just think of it as, the guy with the white cowboy hat, bam, 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 people just fall over and they automatically die. People suffer. And Peckinpah, who saw this firsthand in World War II, he wanted to show it to the modern day viewer to say, a lot of people did serve. A lot of people do know what violence is, because a lot of people during that time served in the military. But for the average viewer, he wanted to bring the truth of violence right to their front door. So, very beautifully shot film, very grainy, gritty. I wouldn't say extremely grainy, but very gritty filming style, the cinematography. It is a top tier Hollywood New Wave film. Very underlooked, overlooked. It's not Peckinpah's most controversial film. Probably the most controversial thing is after McQueen's wife in the movie, who's played by Ali MacGraw, cheats on him. He smacks her in the face a few times, which portrays violence against women. And the funny thing is, that would be controversial nowadays. But at the same time, I'm not saying it's a great thing, but she did cheat on him in the film. But Peckinpah had Steve McQueen slap her in real life. So that was not a thing. And that is scandalous. It's kind of similar to the Shelley Duvall and Stanley Kubrick incidents, where he was mistreating her. The female actress is being mistreated. That is a situation similar to that. But so he does smack her in real life. He smacks her around a little bit. But the thing is, after the movie, they get married in real life. So maybe it's kind of interesting there. But it's not his most controversial film. I don't understand why people don't talk about it. I really want to push and emphasize, you should watch this film. You should watch 1972, The Getaway, starring Steve McQueen, Ali MacGraw, and directed by Sam Peckinpah. Thanks for watching.